Hey, real quick, I wanted to cover this because I see a couple questions pop up on how to change links on these older vintage folded Swiss Rolex Jubilee bands. These bands were produced up to about 1976, and then were phased out with the around 77 and replaced with the D-link version, which the ends are solid and like a D. That's why they refer to them as a D-link. So this is from a reference 62510H. I'm sorry, this is from a reference 6251H. That's the folded vintage Jubilee. And the one that replaced it adds the zero, so that's 62510H. But the way you change links, and I've seen this question asked a couple times, is basically you're going to get you a set of screwdrivers that you can get from the hardware store. You don't want to use your, I hope the camera's focusing on this. You don't want to use your movement if you do watch movement services I myself. I don't use my Bergeron screwdrivers to pry things apart because you'll be sharpening the blades and dealing with blade issues, trying to work on the movement. So I just a basic set of at your hardware store. These are like for a couple dollars. You can buy a box of 5. They're in a clear box. They're just cheap screwdrivers, but what they do is they're hardened steel where they won't mar up or get like burrs that easy. So I use that, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to start with the smaller size first and work. I'm going to see if the camera. You're going to work in between these gaps on the back side, and you're basically going to twist. Just twist back and forth gently, just a little bit. And as you twist back and forth, you're opening it up a little, and then you're going to work your way up to a bigger size screwdriver where you can slip this blade in the gap, and again, twist just a little bit, and open up the gaps of the Jubilee centers. And then when you open it enough, you can slip it over the link over the pin, and then you can resize it that way. That's how you resize these older vintage Rolex Jubilees. They're really easy. Once you get to doing a few of them, you can quickly do them. They're a piece of cake. There's no links on these. Now, not to confuse, but I'll show you the other one that was around the same production time. Now, this is my 1960. There we go. We're focused. 1960 Oyster Perpetual 1002. Now, this is on a Jubilee with oval links. Let me see. My camera is horrible. Sometimes it's okay. So the sides look a little different than the Swiss version of the same period, where you can actually see the folds. You can kind of see it's just like a folded, kind of looks like a cheaper bracelet. You can. That's why they replaced it. They were moving on up as far as trying to enhance their bracelets, because this is more prone to stretch because of the gaps. As the wearer wore them, the gaps would separate more and you get more stretch. But what's nice about them is this style is very easy to change once you know how to do it. But getting back to this is the JB Champion USA Oval Jubilee they're referred to. Now, these were on U.S. production Rolexes because at the time of the 60s and 70s, and I covered this in a previous video, Rolex was to avoid the tariff, the taxation, to reduce it, especially during the quartz crisis. They were shipping just the heads, and the dealers were, the watch shops, the dealers at the time were fitting them with these bands that they contracted out through JB Champion and in the United States. And these are very similar, and I don't know, let me see if I could show you. You can do the same process with these. You can use the screwdriver. You can see they got gaps in them, very similar to the Swiss one. However, unlike the Swiss version of the 6251H, again, that was produced up to 1976, this version. This one does, you will see often it should have a removable link, and that has a mini, like a 7.5 millimeter spring bar in there. And I know because I'm looking for replacement spring bars for these, because they're kind of hard to find because they're not exactly 7 millimeters and they're not 8. But in that removable link, it's a 7.5 millimeter spring bar, and you actually take it out and you can add more links that way. Matter of fact, there's an eBay seller that sells, and I don't like getting into this, but he sells an aftermarket one that looks exactly like this. So you have to be careful when you source these bracelets out, because you can get one with a couple aftermarket links. Now, I don't know where they make those links, the new ones, but yeah, I'm sure you can spot the difference between the original from the 60s and 70s, like this one. Uh, Obviously, it's going to look newer, but you can't buy JB Champion parts anymore. So if you're really needing to add a link to the USA JB Champion one, that may be your only option, is to go aftermarket. I know how everybody kind of freaks out about aftermarket parts, but either that or wait, kind of scroll through eBay's listings and see if you can find some original vintage ones that are authentic. And do that, but you're going to pay a premium for them, of course. Yeah, 75, $100 just for a link is not uncommon, even more. And if they're 14 karat gold centers, which this band came in also, which I just had to buy a link for that. That was they're pricey because they're 14 karat gold, but this is the stainless steel version. Come on, camera. So I just wanted to give a quick how-to. Basically, you're going to for these old vintage. Boy, this camera. There we go. For these old vintage Jubilees, the 6251H, you're going to take a screwdriver. You're going to start with a smaller one, get in those center gaps, and twist ever so gently back and forth, pry them apart, and then when you replace the links or add a link or remove a link, you're going to use just a pair of needle nose pliers. I have no marring, no knurling on the ends, or for grip. These are smooth on the inside, and just squeeze them back together with the needle nose pliers, and to adjust the finished process so it looks like clean and factory. I often will take this. I'll take it if I have one side that's up after I've tried to adjust it with the needle nose pliers to get it as perfect as I can. I'll take a non-marring hammer, which is my cheap hammer, and I'll tap it down. So sometimes you'll have a high side, and I'll tap it flat, gently tap it flat. So, like I said, I've done this about 100 times. Well, not 100 times, but I've done it a lot. So it's once you do it a couple times, it becomes a piece of cake to adjust these. But you're not adjusting them a lot. But I since I fancy more vintage, I deal with more vintage stuff, and I collect vintage watches, so I'm constantly adjusting. I've done it for a couple of friends too, for myself and a couple of friends. Okay, if you have any questions, post them in the comment, and please subscribe if you like the video. Okay, thanks.